Wireless earbuds are convenient, but hardly stunning quality. The build, features, and sound signature leaves much to be desired a lot of the time. I recently reviewed the Peacock Flight and the Moondrop Nico Cake, two wireless earbuds from audiophile companies. While each has its own shortcomings, they both offer something unique. But what if you're already happy with wired IEMs? What if you just want to take your most beloved IEMs and use it wirelessly? You could use a Bluetooth dongle like the Earstudio ES100 or the Shanling UP4, but you're still tethered to these types of devices. That's where a product like the TRN BT30 supposedly takes over. This is an $80 device which will turn your wired IEMs into true wireless earbuds. Hi-Fi Go sent me the BT30 to review. As you likely already know, Hi-Fi Go is among a handful of online retailers that caters to hi-fi gear. If you're looking for deals on unique, popular, or obscure stuff, take a look at Hi-Fi Go's website. From headphones to IEMs to DACs to amps to cables, Hi-Fi Go carries it all. Alright, so how about the BT30? Is it a worthwhile purchase or another unnecessary audio fool accessory? TRN says that the BT30 has the latest Bluetooth 5.2. With this, you get support for aptX, AAC, and SBC. This means we should get native support for both Android and Apple devices, though sadly, Windows is still stuck with SBC. But that's a PC issue, not something TRN is at fault for. TRN claims that the BT30 has noise cancellation technology and swappable earpiece connectors. They also say that each piece has an individual amp section. The BT30 has over 42 milliwatts at 16 ohms. TRN promises up to 6.5 hours of continuous playtime. The noise cancellation they referred to is actually the microphone noise cancellation. This product does not have ANC. The BT30 is water and sweat resistant. This is not waterproof, so don't go swimming with it. TRN does not say whether the BT30 has a sound signature that would impact the presentation. It's a little unfortunate that Bluetooth codecs are so severely limited on this product. Devices like the ES100 and UP4 support the whole spectrum of Bluetooth codecs for similar prices as the BT30. This seems like a lost opportunity. The BT30 is a rugged device. It's fairly light, but covered in a water-resistant, rubberish material. This allows the ear hooks to be flexible. The rectangular piece houses all the electronics, including the Bluetooth receiver and amplifier. There's a button on both sides of the pieces for playback control. You can buy the BT30 in a few configurations, including 2-pin, MMCX, and QDC. As TRN says in the marketing, the connectors can be swapped. You just need to pull the ear hooks away from the rectangular housing. You can purchase ear hooks with different connectors on Hi-Fi Go's website. They're about $10 for each set. This gives you plenty of usability and future-proof accessibility. The BT30 comes with a charging case. It's sturdy and should keep the device protected during casual use. Unfortunately, this case does not have room to store any extra ear hooks that you might end up buying. So if you get a different set of connectors for the BT30 along with the BT30, you'll have to store them separately. Also, this case does not have room to store a set of IEMs along with the module. You can force the case shut with a pair of IEMs, but it's a little cumbersome. This, above all other issues, is the most unfortunate for this case. As for comfort, I feel this product is as comfortable as any other IEM I've worn. Despite its chunky design, I never found it bothersome or difficult to wear. The rubberized coating does not irritate my skin, and the large rectangular housing never caused discomfort. I've had this device for about 4 months and used it on casual walks during hour-long exhausting workouts, and I've walked with it in drizzling rain and even accidentally sat on it. It's taken my abuse without worry. Overall, the BT30's design is not unique for this type of product. Other companies have released similar-looking wireless modules. The device looks like a hearing aid from the 1990s, but that's just the nature of the concept. The BT30 has sturdy construction and is comfortable to me. There are a couple of things we need to figure out about the BT30. First, does it affect the sound signature of the IEMs? Second, does it actually make using IEMs easier or more convenient? How do you test if the BT30 alters the sound signature? Well, the basic way to test this would be to get two sets of the same IEM and compare it in wired and wireless connections. Of course, this would require us to use a completely different amp DAC for the wired IEM. I happen to have two sets of BGVP-DN3, both courtesy of Hi-Fi Go. So we will use this as our testing IEM. So that we don't skew the results, we should use a variety of amp DACs to compare with the BT30. Consequently, I plugged the wired IEM into my EcoZerta ITM03, the Lotu PAW S1, the Ear Studio ES100, and the Shanling UP4. I broke up the test into two phases. In the first phase, I compared the BT30's performance to the Zerta and the PAW S1. This was a true wired versus wireless test. In the second phase, I compared the BT30 to the ES100 and the UP4. This was wireless versus semi-wireless test. I did this so that those who already have a product like the ES100 can have some information about whether the BT30 might be a good fit for them. For both phases, I listened to my test playlist on Amazon Music HD. I tried to volume match. Throughout my test, one consistency with the BT30 was that it always rendered music less clearly than the wired competitors. The PAW S1 and the Zerta presented a bit more bass clarity. Vocals were typically marginally clearer on the PAW S1 and the Zerta compared to the BT30. On the PAW S1 and the Zerta, treble seemed slightly clearer and treble instruments tended to present marginally greater separation and energy. Some of these differences could have been due to imperfect volume matching. However, going back and forth, it consistently appeared that the BT30 had slightly less clear presentation. Was it a night and day difference? No, not with my test music and with these IEMs. Perhaps the alterations might be more apparent with different IEMs than the ones I used here. Let's quickly talk about the Phase 2 tests. Recall, I compared the BT30 against the ES100 and the UP4. I connected both the ES100 and the UP4 over Bluetooth to my iPad so that we were playing on a level field. All of these products support AAC. I listened to the same tracks at the same time, going back and forth. Truth be told, I couldn't hear any consistent differences between them. On some occasions, I thought that the ES100 might be marginally clearer than the BT30, but as soon as I switched back to the BT30, I wasn't sure anymore. After about 45 minutes of going back and forth, I finally concluded I could not hear a practical difference among these products. Maybe there is something different in the presentation, but it definitely wasn't night and day. Now, I've been criticized in the past for not telling you the song-by-song analysis of a DAC or AM's sound signature. Some people want me to do what I do for headphones and IEMs, but I can't. At a point, those comments just turn into me describing the headphones or IEMs, not the source. Using the type of A/B testing I used here, however, provides the most consistent results without adding more confusion into this recipe. So, if you hear or see reviewers talk about the sound signature of the BT30 or any other similar device, ask them if they can explain their methodology for separating the IEM's sound signature from the BT30's purported sound signature. An issue I kept encountering throughout these tests was that the BT30 exhibited audible hiss in the signal when music was not playing. When music did play, even at moderate volumes, that hissing was not audible. Unfortunately, this is something I have encountered many times with Bluetooth devices. This hiss could be due to the amps in the BT30 or to the Bluetooth connection or due to the sensitivity of the DN3. After all, the DN3 is 19 ohms, which is on the more sensitive side. When I tested this issue on the Osprey KC09, which is 32 ohms, I could not hear the hiss. Just word to the wise in case you have sensitive IEMs. There are two fundamental takeaways I found from this testing. First, the BT30 does seem to influence the performance to some degree. It's not necessarily significant, but it is noticeable in an A/B test. There is less clarity, separation, and vocal detail when compared to wired sources. When comparing against other Bluetooth sources like the UP4 and the ES100, the performance was seemingly identical. The second takeaway is that the BT30 is intended as a convenience device. If you're into high-resolution audio, 24-bit PCM or DSD, and you've got subscriptions to lossless FLAC streaming, then Bluetooth is probably not your only way of listening. If you've got Spotify or listen to YouTube music, then you're already in the lossy ecosystem and you might not be so picky about Bluetooth fidelity. The idea behind products like the ES100 and the UP4 is that they are supposed to untether you from your sources. But that's not true. You are still tethered. You still have your headphones or IEMs plugged into one of these products, and you've still got to have your phone, laptop, or other source device close by. The ES100, UP4, and other similar products do not do away with the wire. It just puts the wire on a different device. The BT30, however, does get rid of that dangling wire. And while you still might have your original source device close at hand, you've got considerably greater freedom of movement, less hassle, and a more truthful, wireless experience. However, the UP4 and the ES100 do have a wired connection mode. You can use these devices as your desktop device to get higher fidelity music. And you can't do that with the BT30. This circles back to my original statement. Bluetooth is a convenience. You have to think of the BT30 in those terms. Otherwise, you'll end up comparing it against the likes of the ES100. And that's really not fair. We make sacrifices when we buy wireless headphones and IEMs. Comfort, build, design, and sound signature are all competing factors when we jump into the wireless arena. A Bluetooth earbud whose sound you might like may have a cheap build. Or you might have a robust Bluetooth headphone, but the sound won't be to your liking. The drive to have some wireless freedom keeps some people hoping there is a Bluetooth IEM that does what their favorite wired IEMs can do. With products like the BT30, that's a gap that can theoretically be jumped. Whatever IEMs is your particular taste of the month, the BT30 will turn it into a Bluetooth variant, plug and play. The sound you've come to enjoy from your wired IEM, you can essentially turn into wireless freedom. The BT30 lacks a few features I wish it had. For example, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have replaceable ear hooks, but not a storage case that will hold everything. It is also short-sighted to have a case that doesn't have a place for your IEMs. I know, IEMs come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but a hollow cavity might be able to accommodate some, if not most of them. I also wish that the BT30 had onboard storage. If this device, for example, had 16 gigabytes of onboard memory, we could transfer a few high-resolution albums and not have to lug our phones along. This would also negate the Bluetooth distance and lag issues. The BT30 really should have a dedicated application. It seems like a missed opportunity when manufacturers give us wireless gear, but then don't invest in a mobile app. Audiophiles want EQ, if nothing else. I have no complaints about the BT30's build or comfort. I think the ability to switch ear hooks with different connectors is an excellent idea. FiiO does the same thing with their newest competitor. The cost for TRN's connectors is pretty affordable. At $10 each, they open up all your various IEMs to wireless connectivity. The BT30 does not seem to materially affect the sound of the IEMs. While Bluetooth is a lossy signal, you might hear less detail and clarity, and that's par for the course in wireless products. You don't go wireless for the fidelity, you go wireless for the freedom. This brings us to value. Yes, I think the BT30 is value. At around $80, this product does deliver on its promises. While there are some missed opportunities, none, I think, are deal breakers. You do have alternatives from FiiO to consider, so it's not like you're limited to just this one product. My experience with the BT30 does convince me that products like this do cater to a niche. You may dislike the bulk, the design, or the lack of certain features, but the BT30 does deliver where it counts.